All right. Welcome back, everyone. This is definitely way too late in Kyoto to have a class. I'm so sorry to all of you jet lagged people and myself, and I'm saying sorry to myself. Ugh. Okay. Let's just jump right back in. So, last class we talked primarily about what is refuge and what does it mean to go for refuge and to look for protection. And I think this is, and I just want to repeat it briefly, is that anytime that we have a problem, typically we look to something that can help solve that problem. I mean, it's an obvious statement. I mean, it's not like I'm saying anything like profound. Um, but when we think about like the structure of problems, you have a problem, you're sick, you know, and you're like, I'm going to get better. So you put your hopes and dreams into the thing that's going to make you feel better. Maybe it's some medicine. Maybe it's going to the doctor. Maybe it's just rest. Or maybe it's your mom's, you know, vegetarian chicken noodle soup, right? Like, oh, that's going to make you feel better, right? Or the care that your mother gives you. Like, how many people just feel better when mom, like, you call your mom and you're like, I'm sick. It's like, oh, honey, I'm so sorry. Right. And then when you don't have your mother anymore and then you can't call her, like that object of refuge is gone. Right. Even if you want it. And so when we have a problem, we look to something to solve it. And at the end of the day, we know that it does make you feel better temporarily, but really that's not what makes you feel better, like long term. Like, at the end of the day, like if you were really sick, your mom is not going to take away all that pain. The doctors can't take away all that pain. Hell, like, when you get cancer, they're like, here, let's give you all these other drugs that make you feel like shit, and maybe you'll live, maybe you won't, we don't know. Which is awful. You talk to an oncologist and you say, well, how many of your patients survive? Well, some of them do. Well, how do I know which one? Am I going to be the one that survives and which or one who doesn't? I don't know. But here's what I give my people. Well, how many people live? Well, what do you consider living? You know, they ask those kinds of questions. It's like, the my father's oncologist when my father was diagnosed with cancer was like, yeah, within 6 months, most people are dead. So we're gonna give you all these drugs. And I'm like, I didn't say anything to my dad because I was like, it's not my place to, this is his health. But I'm like, if 99% of the people die in 6 months, why would you take the medicines with the hope that you're the 1%? Like, the chemotherapy is destructive to your body, right? I mean, luckily, my dad was in the 1% of people. And then they're like, well, then, if you're in the 1% after 3 years, everyone's dead except my dad, right? He's still alive 12, 13, 14 years later. So did the medicine work? For one person, the medicine worked. For everyone else, they die. That's stupid. No logical person would say the medicine saved him from their own side. Okay. Right. No logical person would say that. But people go for refuge in doctors, and you trust them, right? And so, but what makes a doctor work? What makes the medicine work? What makes, you know, why can you sometimes not take the medicine and feel better, right? You see, like, and that's where we're trying to get to, is what are we really going for refuge in, and it's that understanding of, it's a deep understanding of how things are not coming at us, but they're going this way, right? They're coming from how you treated others in the past. Could you do me a favor? The air conditioning, could you turn it down to, I don't know, it's the heat just turned on, just like maybe a degree or two. Um, and so that's where we left it. Like, what's actually going to protect you? Now, I just want to be very clear, and I didn't make this clear last class, is that I didn't say don't go to the doctor. I didn't say don't call your mom and ask for the chicken noodle soup. I didn't say don't get some rest or eat good food or go to the police. I didn't say any of those. I didn't say that. Yes, you still need to do those things, but an understanding of why it will or why it won't work for you. You can easily say some people go to the police and they get protected and some people don't. Well, in this country, depending on the color of your skin, might determine whether the police work for you or not. Like, how terrible is that? But it's not guaranteed, right? Just because your color of your skin is one color doesn't mean you're going to get it to work or not get it to work. That's also equally inaccurate from a ultimate point of view. So when we're looking at how what are when you have a problem, here's the question. When you have a problem, what do you do? Oh, I need to solve this problem. Okay, how are you going to solve that problem? And that's when our minds have to shift to a place of, okay, well, where did the problem come from in the first place? And not to blame somebody else, but to blame a series of causes and conditions, previous causes and conditions created today. All right, well, if I want tomorrow to be different, or I want the next 6 months or my next life to be different, how do I need to behave differently? And that's going for refuge. How do I behave differently? How do I act differently? That's how you ground all of this. Okay, we went on a trip in the last class. All right. And I just want to ground it in, when you have a problem, how do you act differently with an understanding of, if this is coming from me, what do I want to see in the future? If I want to see more of this, great. Just keep on going. Stay on that train. But if you want to see something different, then get on a different train. That's all. you know, it's very easy for me to say, get on a different train, take a different route. You have to unwind your mental, physical habits, your mental emotional habits. And that takes time, and that takes courage, and it takes dedication and support, all of those things. So where we left the last class was, what are the different types of bodhicitta? We talked about in the form of an intention and then in the form of an action. But then there's two other ones, and this is my favorite part, and this is why I'm glad we got to start the class with this. Let me see here. So the first one, we call this. Oh, I forgot to put this on the system. Hold on, I just it's for the people in the room so they can see the pictures here. No, don't transfer that. Mm-hmm. All right, there you go. Oops. Hold on. Sorry, guys. My best. Do you know how to shut off the audio? Somewhere in there. You can shut it off. Okay. So the first the first of bodhicitta is deceptive bodhicitta. And what do we mean by this? Hey, give me my phone back. I'll find it. Did you figure it out? No. There it is. So, nope. You can just go turn it off, then we'll figure it out later. Is this idea of when we normally speak of the wish for total enlightenment, we're talking about the wish to become enlightened so you can help all living beings. And what that means is that your wish is focused on all of those beings in what we call deceptive reality. And it's really kind of I don't like this word, and it's really uncomfortable for me. But what it means is that a reality that is deceiving you. And what does that mean? Is that you think it's coming from the outside and it's not coming from you. So in some way, there's some kind of trick that it's playing on you. And so the main thing when we say Semke Pani Shendun Jir Yandak Sokbe Jan Chubdu, we're talking about taking care of all those beings that are in your world that are coming from your seeds. Even if you seeing them as not coming from your seeds, right? So the idea is that anything that's appearing, the beings that are appearing through dependent origination, right? They're coming from your seeds, even though they're appearing that they're not coming from your seeds, right? And so you're being you're being confused by it, you're being deceived by it, right? And so when we normally talk about bodhicitta and being a bodhisattva, is we're talking about let's go take care of all those beings in deceptive reality, right? And it's kind of this, and then when we really think about it, it gets a little bit overwhelming. Does anyone have any idea how many beings there are on planet Earth? There's 8 billion humans. Actually, they think there's more like 12 billion. It's just they can't count them all. Okay. 8 billion, 8 to 12 billion human souls. All right. I think there's 10 quadrillion insects. Quintillion. I don't know. It's some ridiculous number. Okay. It's like 10 with like 30 zeros after it. I can't remember what it was. I actually looked it up the other day. How many insects are in the world? Let's see here. There it is, 10 quintillion. Okay. There's 10 million species. Okay. Like 10 quintillion insects. How many? You can't even count that far. And if you started your life counting one, two, three, and tried to meet all 10 quintillion insects on this planet, you would never meet them. You couldn't even count that high, let alone try to meet all 8 billion, 20 billion people, however many people are, you know? So, how the hell am I supposed to save every single one of them? That's my question. I'm a bodhisattva. I'm supposed to take care of all those living beings. Let's go do it. Okay. I got you, little ant. I got you, little ant. Got you, little ant. Okay, I'm up to three, right? And my and how much, like it's absurd to think about how many beings there are. And that's just this planet. Like, let's not talk about all the other planets out there. And it would be absurd to think that there weren't other beings on other planets. The universe is quite large. We're not the only ones. 10 to the 30. Okay. Right. Okay. So it's a ridiculous number of people and beings, right? So you're supposed to take care of all of those beings. You're supposed to do something for the benefit of all of those beings. And one by one, you can take care of them, but not because they're out there on their own by themselves, independent of you. Okay. Now here's my favorite part of this course. And this has to do with the second type of bodhicitta. Like we're talking about the deceptive form of bodhicitta. And then we're going to talk about the ultimate form of bodhicitta. And this, when I first heard this, I think I fell out of my chair. And I'm not sure why it made such a big impact on me, pranic impact, but it did. That the ultimate form of bodhicitta is equivalent to the direct perception of emptiness. So I'll say that again. So the ultimate form of that wish is the direct perception of emptiness. And I think you need to think about that. Like, take the time to think about what is the relationship between seeing emptiness directly and the ultimate highest form of bodhicitta. Right. And it might have to do with understanding where all of those 10 quintillion bugs are coming from. And it's only because you can see emptiness directly that you could take care of all of them. And you have to think about it. But quite honestly, just relax. Okay. you know, it's okay. Those those bugs are waiting for you to figure it out. You know, don't worry about it so much. But what are you doing for the people around you? Like, you don't have to absurdly run around the world taking care of every living being and losing your mind over it. I mean, if you did that, you wouldn't, if you actually thought about it, you would never go anywhere. You would never shower because the number of beings that live on your skin. Okay, did you think about them? What about the beings that are like symbiotically living in your stomach? Oops. Getting on an airplane, like going down a runway, you know, I'm sure that there were some bugs that got smashed by your plane or got sucked into the engine. Sometimes birds get sucked into engines. What about driving? How many bugs did you run over while you were driving? How about when you walked today? Did you step on anyone today? Did you have a funeral for them? Probably not. And I'm not making a joke just to make a joke. Okay. Like, there's something about seeing emptiness directly that gives you the capacity to help all of those beings. And where are they coming from in the first place? So that's my little morning shtick or afternoon evening shtick on the ultimate form of bodhicitta, which is the direct perception of emptiness. All right. Let's get up the next slideshow. I was correct. At dinner time tonight, we were trying to remember the definition of nirvana in Tibetan. And I was right because I had just prepared it. So here it is.
Nyondrib malupar panpei sosor tak kok.
Let's try it. Close. Tang.
Tangok.
You don't really pronounce the last
Tango.
tango, right? It kind of, I mean, technically yes, but you kind of let it slide. So Nundrik Malu Parpangpe Sosor Tango. So this is the definition of nirvana, which is what we're trying to get to. You know, we're trying to get to a place where we no longer have any of these problems. We no longer have any of these, they call them annoyingly so mental afflictions. I'm mentally afflicted about calling it mental afflictions, because it's not quite, it doesn't always feel mental. It just feels like it feels being bothered, different levels of bothered, from like emotional to, just a light annoyance to extremely irritated and angry and frustrated, to the point where then you might act on it, where you might yell at somebody, or get angry. But the idea is we're trying to get to a place, and this is, believe me, this is, we're all in the same boat here. It's just different levels at different times. Sometimes it gets more frustrating than at other times. But to get to a place where we don't have any more of, we're not bothered by anything. You might still have a body, and you probably will, but no one can irritate you ever again. You can't get upset, even if you got sick, or even if you had the worst person yell at you, or the stories in the scriptures of like your finger being cut off and still having pain, and then not even being upset at the person who cut off your finger. I don't know how many people cut off other people's fingers these days, but it's a good story. Like, to get to a place where you no longer have that kind of reaction, that sounds pretty cool to me. I mean, honestly, right? And it's a permanent cessation due to having seen, because you saw emptiness directly, you began to analyze one by one every single mental affliction or negative emotion that you have, and you understand where it comes from perfectly. That's all. So just see emptiness directly. Just do it. Like, and I keep hearing, and I've heard it several times, that it's just that people don't spend enough time on it. Like Geshe has said over and over again, it's about the same amount of time it takes to be a concert pianist. Like that amount of dedication on top of everything else. No, it's not that much. It's, you know, 10 years, 20 years, I don't know, something like that. But what gets in our way are our afflictions, are our negative emotions. Like that's what kind of, that's what keeps you from getting onto the cushion and analyzing all of this. That's what stops you from doing the work that you just need to do. It's a lot of it is just jackass persistence. A lot of it is just when you have a difficult day, week, month, year, life, sometimes life never really gives up on a lot of us. Can you look at it in a different way? And I'll tell you, it's really hard. The more difficult things get, the harder it is to be like, yeah, I'm sure it's coming from me, but I'm not gonna like screw that. I just want my mommy. I just want someone to take this away from me. And but I can say that it can get better, and these practices can change that. And part of what we're trying to do is the sutric path is slow. It can be very, very slow, and it can be very, very frustrating. And I kind of consider there's kind of a point that a lot of people get into their practice. I kind of call it the bardo, like where you're in between sutra and tantra. You're in between the open and the secret teachings. You don't quite have the secret teachings yet, but you kind of have a little bit, and your seeds are opening up, but you're still in a sutric worldview, right? And it kind of can feel constricting, or it can feel like, because it's not just quite working yet, and it's a stage that a lot of people get into karmically, and then eventually the seeds will open that you will get empowerment, and then you will get a different set of it's a worldview shift. It really is. And again, you can't explain it until you have it. But I think a lot of you want that, and if you want to do it quickly, like that's the, you know, and I keep telling people, they're like, yeah, yeah, I want tantra. I was like, do you really? Are you ready? Are you ready to like blow up your ego? Are you sure you want to do that? And that's why we need bodhicitta. That's why we need strong renunciation. We need strong desire to serve other people, and a strong sense of wisdom. You need all that. And that's what propels it forward. And then you'll be like, no, 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 I didn't want that. I just want paradise. Yeah, guess what? What's the expression? The road to paradise is paved with good intentions. I think I just made some shit up. Yeah, the road to hell is what? The road to hell is paved with good intentions, right? But I changed it, right? Like the road to paradise is paved with good intentions. It is, but it can get bumpy, and like do you really want that? And that's just a question you'll have to decide. And that's and 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 then part of the path is who are you gonna trust? Who are you gonna go for refuge in? Who are you gonna put that trust into? Right? Who is that person? Like, as I said, these classes, finishing the 18 courses is one thing, but who are you going to study with? And it's a important decision to make. And that's also a seed too. In fact, it shouldn't be a decision. The seeds just go, it comes out on a nice platter, hopefully, or it splats and it hits you in the face, or who knows. But your seeds will take care of it. And the way that you plant seeds for that is really how well are you going for refuge? How well do you go for refuge when you have a problem? And when your motivation is then helping other people, when you have a problem, go find someone else who has a similar problem. And how do you purify bad seeds? Well, go do the opposite. You know, maybe what you need is just a good old, like, just go to the local animal shelter and spend some time with some abandoned animals. If you can't go help someone else, go help the abandoned animals. Like, help them be less afraid, help them, maybe donate a little bit of money so they don't get euthanized if they're not adopted. you know like, if you can't help anyone else, go help the cats, go help the dogs, right? They need help and love too. Find someone to help, and understand that the helping of other people is, you know it's getting you to a place where then you can understand perfectly where everything comes from. And when you understand where everything's coming from perfectly by seeing emptiness directly, sorry, interpreters, once you get to a place where then you have understood, seen perfectly where things are coming from, then, because you analyze it so sort tango, you're analyzing one by one each of those negative emotions and understanding where they come from, so you can pangpa them, so you can eliminate them. Cut them out. Like, cut the bullshit. That's what it should be called. Cut it out. Mike, are you coming to Kyoto, Mike? Good. Because I want to, like, I need my dose of Mike humor. You know, the definition of nirvana: cutting the bullshit. Cut it out, pangpa it individually, one by one. Well, Tim, I haven't seen emptiness directly. How can I do that? Just start one by one. Hey, how do you feel today? I feel like shit. Okay, good. Why do you feel that way? Well, and then you listen to the person for an hour and you're like, well, or you could just say that sometime in a billion past lives, someone was mean to somebody else. Okay, what are you going to do now? As I said, if you need to fall asleep, just fall asleep. Yeah, that's why I did it. Oh, I like that, Anastasia, our 84,000 marathon, right? Let's Those are all good t-shirts. I like that, right? Just cut it out. And I say cut it out with love and patience and kindness to yourself. Like like don't beat yourself up if you have a bad day or you have, a bad week where you're upset with yourself or you're all of those things are happening. It's like that doesn't help. Doesn't help at all, you know, because we can't control the things that are arising. We can't. Like it's the seeds are opening. You can't stop it in the moment. You can't stop it in the moment. I'm sorry. I wish I could just do a review and not give commentary. There's this weird, I don't say weird, but there's this discussion in this course about there's two distinctions. When you reach that place where you no longer have any negative emotions, there's two types of nirvana. There's lakche and lakme, where you have something left over, and then where you don't have something left over. Okay. And the idea is that, and this is a long discussion from the Abhidharma, and I don't want to go into it right now. But the idea generally is, and you can and review group leaders, it would be very helpful to go into the Abhidharma aspect of this and what the heck's going on here. And then how it relates to the upper middle way. Like what is actually going on. So there's two types of nirvana with something left over and where nothing is left over. Where there's a type of nirvana where you still have a body, which is what we mean by leftover. And with nothing left over means you no longer possess an impure body. Okay. Just learn what that means and then just write it down, put in your homework, and then you can think about it. But there's a relationship with that and then the upper middle way discusses it based on seeing emptiness directly. Like nirvana with something left over versus something not left over has to do with seeing emptiness directly. And I will leave that for the study groups. You can debate that. Okay. And then there's this other thing that we talk about nirvana. And and again, I would like the study groups to spend some time on this. Is that a nirvana that doesn't stay? And there's what does it mean that it doesn't stay? And it means it doesn't stay in two things. Do you have any pictures for this? I have some pictures. You can look at it online and you can figure out which pictures refer to what. I have a picture of like leftovers in the refrigerator and people leaving the hotel. So you guys can look at the pictures later. But nirvana that doesn't stay means that they're not staying in two things. And what are those two things that they're not staying in? One, they're not staying in the extreme of cyclical life. They're not an enlightened being who hasn't someone who has achieved nirvana who doesn't stay is they don't stay in this, they don't choose to stay in this cycle of life because they want to help other people. Like it's kind of this thing where people say, well, I'm going to stay to help people because I want to help them. Yes, you want to help them, but you don't stay here to help them. You know, you want to get totally enlightened so then you can emanate bodies to help them, which is a total different thing. And then the second thing is you don't stay in the extreme of a lower piece, which would be the nirvana of the lower tracks, right? Because the idea is that when you achieve nirvana, which would be, again, I'm sorry I didn't do all the research during the break. I'll put it in the chat in the future, like probably tomorrow. Um, whether it's the eighth bodhisattva, eighth level bhumi or seventh level bhumi, it doesn't matter. What matters is that when you achieve that level on the lower tracks, there's this. It feels good. Imagine if you never had any negative emotions ever again. That would be amazing. Why would you do anything else after that? I mean, what would be your motivation? You feel great, right? You feel awesome. Like on the lower tracks, it's just like a kind of nice blissed out state, right? But you still don't have, you have still not removed the obstacles to omniscience. Like you haven't removed the things you, like those subtle seeds to be able to have what it takes to be totally enlightened. So what happens for those who have bodhicitta at that level, they call it the tap. The Buddha shows up and is like, yo, hey, you're not done yet. You got to keep going, right? You have more to do. So the nirvana that doesn't stay in that state. Having achieved nirvana, they're still pushing forward to remove some subtle seeds. And then they also don't stay in this cyclical life. They're not trying to just keep having nice bodies over and over again. They still want to get out. So that's what that means. And you can study those more in the study groups as well. What I'm more interested in, like I was having a debate with someone about some of this stuff. And it was fascinating for a bit. And I said, who cares? And they were like, what? And I said, who cares? I said, if you have seen emptiness directly and you got to a place where you no longer have any mental afflictions or negative emotions, when you get there, just let me know what it means to not stay, or let me go what it means not to have a body, or something like that. Like at that point, you're so far advanced, just let me know what it's like. What I'm mostly interested in is how to get to that place. How do I get to a place where I no longer get upset anymore? What the details are at Bodhisattva level 7, 8, 9, and 10, like the little minutia of them. No offense to anyone who wrote about them or spoke about them, Lord Buddha, etc., etc. I'm not dissing any of that. But the details of those subtle states and what those seeds are and what it's like, I'll let you know when I get there. Okay. I'm more concerned about how do I get to that place in the first, in the first place? How do I get to a place where I could see emptiness directly? How do I get to a place where then I can start cutting the bullshit? CTBS. Thank you. T-shirt, right? That's my new thing. Anyone who comes to me with a problem, if it gets too much, I'm just going to say CTBS, and you know that I don't want to talk about it anymore. So I'm interested in how to get there. And then I'll let you know when I get there and I have those other details, I'll let you know. Maybe I'll write a classical commentary on it or something. So how do we get there? Right? And the primary way to get there is to become a master of the extraordinary training on wisdom. But again, to me, that's not enough. Like, how do you become a master of wisdom? There's some things you have to do. And one of them is becoming a master at the extraordinary training of meditation. Because in order to see emptiness directly, in order to have these realizations, to be able to move your prana into the central channel, to do all of those wonderful things, you have to be able to meditate. And what I mean by meditate is you have to be able to single pointedly focus 1 hour a day in meditation. Oh shit, Tim, I don't think I can do that. Well, then you're disqualifying yourself from seeing emptiness directly. But I'll give you a secret. It's called time. Okay. And then Diamond Way practices teach you how to reach shamatha. The Diamond Way practices are give you the techniques and tools to reach shamatha a lot faster than you can do it just on your own. So without those teachings. All right. For $100, why is there a notebook and a pen next to this meditator? Oh, let's see. Which is the first one that came in? The first one that came in is I do not know how to read Chinese characters, but it's this person. So please send me your PayPal. Yes, it's your 6 times a day book. Because in order to meditate well, you have to clear up the stuff in your mind. Angel, who was it? Is it someone from our group in Taiwan? Where are they? It's this person.
He is Taylor.
It's Stella?
Yeah, he's going to Kyoto.
Okay. Who is it?
Yeah, Yao Xun. Did you remember Yao Xun?
My God, I need a picture. I'm so terrible.
Oh,
Yosh. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Just come find me, Yoshun. All right. Come find me and I'll give you $100 in Kyoto. Congratulations. Okay. Great. I'm so terrible at this. What was I saying? In order to have good meditation, your mind has to be free from being bothered. It has to be, you can't be worried about stuff. You can't be thinking about the stupid things that people did to you last night, or trying to plan your revenge, or think about the best thing to say to someone who pissed you off yesterday. My favorite time to do that is in the shower. You know why I like taking showers in Kyoto? Because it's not the desert here. Get you guys don't get it. In the desert, you can't take long showers because it's wastes the water. Japan is an island and it rains a lot here. Get it? Okay. I can complain about people for a long time in the shower here, but the your morality will dictate how well your meditation is going. If you want to have a good meditation, you have to be you have to you have to be planting good seeds constantly, and you have to be stopping the negative seeds, because if your mind is bothered, you will not be able to meditate. It's nearly impossible to do it, right? And planting good seeds is also planting good seeds for meditation. By planting a clean, pure mind, clear, pure mind that's also clean of negativities will then help you not have negativity is to be able to meditate, which also then plants seeds for wisdom. They're all connected together, right? So in order to have good wisdom, you have to have meditation. To have good meditation, you have to be leading an ethical life. What's the seed to lead an ethical life? What's the cause to be able to want to lead an ethical life? Huh. Did I stump you there?
Joyful effort.
Maybe. Or maybe they're all related to each other in a way that's not linear. I don't know. I don't know. Think about it. When was the first moment of wisdom you had? What created the first one? I don't know. Think about it. But in order to reach a place where you no longer are bothered by anything, you have no longer have any kind of negative emotion, we have to start with the way that we bother other people, and try to find ways to not bother them, right? Try to find ways not to hurt them, find ways to help them. Look at ourselves, and it was difficult for me last night. I got news that Geshe Michael didn't want to stay at the hotel we're in for this event and wanted to stay in a different hotel. And I was kind of bummed about it. I was sad about it. And I'm like, no, but you're not going to be there. And I went through this whole long thing in my head about how maybe I'm losing the closeness to my teacher, and he doesn't want to be around anymore. Oh, maybe he doesn't like ACI. He doesn't, maybe he's not supporting me anymore, ready for the stories that your brain makes, right? And then I was like, all right, I'm just going to do this. And I'm like, I have to shift my view. Like, I was like, there's something, like, something's wrong with my view. And then I'm like, no, I'm going to give my Lama what he wants. Why? Because he wants it. I'm not going to create a story. I'm not going to go through this whole long thing. I'm just going to go ahead and do it, And I was hungry too. And I couldn't get into any restaurants because they don't let anyone into restaurants if you don't have a reservation. I don't know why, So but I went and then changed the hotel. I went to the new place. And then I did it with joy, as Kat was mentioning, right? I just was like, I'm going to do this. And and I talked to the manager. We did all the things, made everything as good as it could be for him and the team that's going to be with him. And I was like, that's the seed to keep your teacher close. Give them what they want. Like, that's how you do it. Like, don't make the story up. Like, okay, he wants to be at a different hotel so he can be closer to, I don't know, downtown, or he can be closer to his favorite cafe. I don't know, give him what he wants. And then, but when you do it, then you start building the wisdom into it. Like, okay, do the three spheres, right? I'm empty, he's empty, the gift is empty. Doing all those things together kind of start building up a foundation of wisdom. So what if it doesn't make any sense? Oh, so what if it costs twice as much money as the other hotel? Watch what your mind does when you're trying to give. You want to block good meditation? Get upset about giving. and then watch what happens. And I promise you it'll happen to every single one of you at some point. So good luck. Did I spell that right? Okay. So here's my favorite word in Tibetan. Gotcha. Everyone's probably heard the story. This was going to be my first tattoo. I was going to put it on right here. Actually on my left arm. Sorry. Right here in this this skinny arm here, right? Just so I can remember to remind myself what it is I was trying to do. And when we're talking about seeing emptiness directly, what we're really trying to do is trying to understand what isn't there. What isn't there that we're saying is there? And it's kind of confusing to think of it this way. But if we're trying to keep in mind, what's the context here? What's the context? We're talking about refuge. We're trying to determine what is going to protect us, right? So it seems like we've moved extremely far away from the concept of refuge since, I think we're technically in class 7 now of 10 in the review. So we talked about, okay, first of all, let's go back and think. We talked about what it means to go for refuge. We talked about going for refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. Then we said we're going for refuge in actually the jewels. Okay. And then we went on a total different trip, right? Then we went from talking about going for refuge. Then we jumped totally into bodhicitta. What the heck does that have to do with anything? Then after we talked about bodhicitta, we were talking about nirvana, right? So we went from the beginning of the like the Buddhist path, like where most people get introduced to Buddhism. Samge Chudang Sogi Chognam La, right? The Buddha Dharma Sangha. And then we built this whole thing, and now we're like hanging out over here in nirvana. And then we're like, okay, well, how do we get to nirvana? We're going to go backwards. To get to nirvana, we want to have the extraordinary training of wisdom done. We want to have that rock solid. How do you get really good wisdom? Well, you have to have really good meditation. How do you have really good meditation? You have to be really ethical, right? So you're doing all of these things. We're still building, we're building it backwards. So now we're on the concept of gotcha, the thing that we thought that was there that's not there. Like, what's the logic of all of this? Like, this is how you should be thinking. This is a teacher training. Okay. Like, why? Like, why are we talking about gotchas now? So then, okay, so what is that? Like, what is this thing that's not there? What is the thing that you thought was there that's not there? And so what we're trying to figure out is if nirvana is a full understanding that everything is coming from me, therefore, whatever happens to me is coming from me, and then I will have no reaction to it. I will not be upset about it. I won't have any, doesn't mean I don't feel pain, but feeling body pain and having a reaction to it are totally different things. Right? Because there's no necessary correlation between how your body is feeling or the pain in your body and the feeling that you have about that pain. Have you ever met anyone who enjoys pain? I think there's a word for that. Right? Like someone can be happy about their pain, right? Now this is a little bit different than being a masochist, of course. But you know, but the idea really is like if you could get to that place where everything you understand everything is coming this way, we have to understand, well, what does it mean when something's coming this way? What the hell does that actually mean? And to make that switch from this to that is through this little fun Tibetan word called gacha. The thing that you thought that was there that's not. You have to, and what that another way of the more technical way of defining it is you have to deny the thing that you thought was there. You have to deny a self-existent object, which couldn't exist anyway. So we have to figure out if a self-existent object were to exist, a self-existent thing were to exist, what would it look like? We keep saying everything's coming this way. Wake up, wake up. It's okay. I know. 26 minutes. If everything is coming this way, excuse me, if you're perceiving everything coming this way, right? But it's actually coming this way. How do we know? How do we figure it? How do we determine what that thing is that's coming this way that's not actually coming this way? That's what the gacha is. We have to deny the thing that's not even there. But if it were to be there, what would it look like? Like, what would that work of art be? Just look around you all day long. There's your work of art. And it has to do with how you feel about it. How do you take it? And a lot of and these courses from here on out will actually be helping us to define what that thing is. What is the thing that wasn't there that you thought was there? Right? And then how do you deny that? So that you can dissolve it and then understand that it's coming this way perfectly. Okay. Relax. This is just a review class. This is just helping you finish the courses. Okay. I'm looking at your faces. You're all like, what? Just fill in the homework. So if we don't know what a self-existent object would look like if it were to exist, then we can never realize what emptiness is. Because emptiness is an absence of a self-existent thing that was never there to begin with. God. So unfortunately, everybody, we have 24 minutes. The rest of class is going to be what I call a fire hose. So get out your notebooks, get out whatever you're taking notes on, and we're just going to move through it fast. And you can review a lot of it. You can review it in your study groups. Because the whole point of these classes really is just to review. if you want the whole course, that's why there's 10 classes. All right. The next thing we're going to talk about is there's this metaphor or this idea of a magician who has a stick. Okay. And the idea is that the magician has a stick, throws the stick on the ground, and then says, hocus pocus, bibbity bobbity boo. Okay. And then throws some magical sprinkles on it. Okay. And then everyone who is there in that moment, right? So people in the room and those of you online, right? You see me like take my little fairy dust out of my pocket, sprinkle it out, right? And then everyone around who was there for the spattering of the powder, then you all see a horse, or excuse me, a cow or horse, doesn't matter. I think my picture's a horse. Yes. Where the stick was just a stick, magic powder goes onto it, everyone sees a horse. All right. So what happens next is that, all right, everyone around's like, ooh, there's a horse, how beautiful. And then someone comes in, walks up, but they don't see anything. They don't see the horse. They don't see the horse at all. They just see a stick. Okay. So how does this relate to what we just talked about? And so basically what we're trying to determine is who are all the players in this little metaphor and what do they represent? So the people all around represent sosokewos. They see a horse and they believe the horse is there, right? Nobody goes, the horse isn't there. They have this perception that the horse is there. And the magician also sees the horse as well, but the magician knows it's not real. Okay, so there's two different types of people. There's normal people, sosokewos, who see the horse and believe it. The magician is a metaphor for an Arya who still sees the horse but doesn't believe it's there. And what this means is that when you see emptiness directly, you do not stop seeing things coming this way. You just don't believe it anymore. But the reason we're talking about this as a magician and there's an illusion, it's because it looks like it's coming one way, but it's actually a different way. There's a discrepancy between you're seeing it this way, but it's actually this way. The Arya goes, I know it's this way, but I'm forced to see it this way. The Sosokewa is like, can't stop it, right? Even if you have an intellectual understanding, we can all do this. Everyone, raise your left hand. Okay, waiting for the interpreters to catch up. There we go, right? When you're looking at something, where is it coming from? Is it coming this way or is it coming this way? Show me with your hand. All right, if anyone does it the other way, God bless. Okay. You can all do this, right? And I don't know if you're an Arya or not. I don't know who you are. Okay. But let's just assume that you're not. All right. Intellectually, all of you can do this. But it doesn't do anything for the actual belief in your perception in the moment. It's helping you plant seeds to get to that perception, but it doesn't change the ingrained tendency belief that things are coming at you. I mean, you can say the words and you then do the practices to accustom yourself to that, but a sosokewo cannot stop the belief, which is depressing as hell. All right. And then the third person, this people who come afterwards. The people who come afterwards who don't see the horse are basically people who are not yet Buddhas, but are in the direct perception of emptiness. Things neither appear as self-existent to them or they're not believing them at the time to be self-existent. So the idea is that you can think about that person. But the metaphor with the horse and the magician is extremely helpful. And when I first heard this, I was kind of like, oh, this is dumb. Don't ever say a Dharma teaching is dumb. There's a reason, right? But over time, things start making more and more sense because you can basically, if you can get to a place where you understand that everything is an illusion and you can almost start feeling it, you're very, very close to seeing emptiness directly. So just hold on to that thought. Okay, I'm going to spend more time on this other stuff. Okay. Write out the reasoning, one or many. Okay. This takes a long time to explain, but I'm going to do it very fast and you can go and study the class. What is the reasoning of one or many? So let's consider the three knowledges, which comes from the Abhisamaya Alankara. There's three primary knowledges. Foundation knowledge. What's that? There's path knowledge, and what's the third one? Omniscience. Yes, thank you for reminding me. Did I forget? Right. Foundation, path, and omniscience. Okay. Consider those three types of knowledges. They don't exist truly because they neither exist as one thing nor do they exist as many things. Okay. What does that mean? You know, they're like a reflection in the mirror. You know, don't worry about what the three knowledges are and what they mean. It doesn't matter. You can put anything in there. Consider a car. It doesn't exist truly because it doesn't exist as one thing, nor does it exist as many things. Why? You know, what does that mean? What does it mean that things don't either exist as one thing or they don't exist as many things? And this goes on a whole deep trip, and you guys can do it in your study groups. But the main thing is that let's take a car. When you look at a car, is it one thing or is it many things? Yes. Right? Or is it neither? Okay. Let's do a couple little examples and then you can think about it. Is the car one thing? Yes or no? You look outside and you go, oh, there's a car, there's a taxi driving down the street. It's a car. Is it one thing or is it many things? Well, don't tell me it's many things because I'm looking at a car. I'm looking at one car. My experience says it's one car. Duh. How else would you be experiencing it? Right? But what about its parts? Well, car isn't one thing, it's many things. Like there's many things that come together to make it a car, right? You have a wheel, you have another wheel, you have a window, you have like a gear shift, you have a radio, you have some seats, right? You have an engine, some gasoline. Like all of those parts come together to create this car. So is the car just one thing? Well, it would be stupid to call it one thing because there's many things that go into it. All right, well, let's go the other direction. Well, okay, fine. There's many parts, right? So are those parts the car? Well, how many parts are there? 500, a million, 3,000? I don't know. If each of those parts were the car, when you took the parts apart, you would have 3,000 cars. And you think I'm just being pedantic right now, right? But I'm not. There's something wrong with the way that we think about things. Is the car one thing or is it many things? Well, yes, it's one thing, it's a car, but then it has parts. So are those parts the car? Well, if you took the tire off, would it still be the car? Is the tire the car? No. You took the tire off, you wouldn't have a car. But when you said the car was a car, that's what you thought it was. So the tire is the car. Or each of those parts are the car. So then there's 3,000 cars. Well, which one is it? How about when you look at a car, do you actually look at the whole car? Are you actually perceiving the whole car? When you're looking at the front, are you looking at the back? No. How about if you look at the left? Are you looking at the right? No. So how are you looking at one car when your eyes aren't even ever looking at a full car? You can't be looking at the full car. It's impossible. You can't look at all the parts at the same time. You're just looking at a part, but you confuse the part for the whole, and then you think the car is that thing because you just saw a few parts. Well, what the hell's going on, Tim? Oh, weird. Something else is going on. That's the point. Something else is going on. It's not one nor many. And the whole point is to do this kind of argumentation over and over and over again in your head. Oh, your partner's mad at you. Well, which part of your partner is the mad part? Is it their left eyeball or is it their right elbow? Well, which part is the part that's mad? No, they're totally their whole bodies they're mad. Oh yeah, but what about their left toe? Next time your partner gets mad at you, just look at their left toe. And that'll probably piss them off more. But look at their left toe and ask, is the anger in their left toe? And they're going to be like, what are you looking at my feet for? And you'd be like, oh, sorry, honey, trying to find out where the anger is. It's in your left toe. And then they're going to kick you in the face. And then you're like, oh, I found the anger. Well, then what part of the foot kicked you in the face? Was it the left part of the foot or the right part of the foot? Which part had the anger in it? You see, then you should go try to find the anger, the one that hit you in the face. And you can't find it. So, but was the anger in the foot or was the anger in the mind that moved the foot? So the foot wasn't, you can't be mad at the foot. You got to be mad at the person who moved the foot. Well, where was the person that moved the foot? Are they in the cells in their ear? Are they in their left collarbone? Are they in the neurons in their brain? Where is that person who got mad? Oh, it's in the adrenaline that got released by wherever adrenaline gets released from in the body. Well, maybe it was a pituitary gland. Where the hell is it? Try to get mad at the person that you can't even find the anger at and find the anger in. I want to hear stories of you staring at the left big toe of your partner next time they get angry. And then see what happens. Because you can't find it. It's not where you thought it was. All right. We have 5 minutes for my favorite part. So here's Maitreya again. This is the picture from a Maitreya statue at the Metropolitan something art, the Met. What is it? Whatever it's called. I can't remember the full name of it. My brain's stopping. What's the Met? What's the full thing? The Met Museum of Art in New York. Beautiful Maitreya statue. All right. So all of this is in the perfection of wisdom in the Abhisamaya Alankara. So there's a question that comes up. Somebody comes along, some kachik comes along. We're actually in this debate right now. So much fun. My next class is coming up. And says, makes a distinction between two qualities that a Buddha has. A Buddha has a quality of having fulfilled his own needs, her own needs, their own needs, and then also the capacity to fulfill the needs of others. Okay. And then there's a debate in this text about, well, if a Buddha is a Buddha, then they've already have satisfied their own needs, so they don't need to be satisfying their own needs anymore. Okay, it becomes this long, complicated. I think it's kind of fun and nerdy, but it becomes this long debate on how can a Buddha still wish to take care of their own needs if they've already taken care of their own needs by having become a Buddha. Okay. So this long drawn out argument, debate goes back and forth. Okay. And basically the debater says Maitreya has no state of mind that's aspiring to fulfill his own needs. That's exactly where we are in my text right now. The Maitreya has no state of mind aspiring to fulfill his own needs. So he wrote the Jewel of Realization only for the sake of others. All right. And so the debate then goes on to say, well, then if Maitreya has no state of mind where he's aspiring to fulfill his own needs, then he must be a Buddha. Okay. He doesn't have to fulfill his own needs anymore. So he must be a Buddha. Right. And so then the debate goes back and forth of, well, is Maitreya a Bodhisattva, the future Buddha, or is he already a Buddha? Right. And so it becomes a lively, nerdy discussion about very minute points. But why do we care about this? This is the whole point. Why do we care about this debate in the first place? And the reason we care about it is because the status of Maitreya changes whether you're talking about sutra or whether you're talking about Diamond Way. And in sutric teachings, Maitreya is still considered a bodhisattva. He is the future Buddha. He's not quite there yet. And then in the Diamond Way teachings, he already is a Buddha, yet he appears at certain times to be a bodhisattva to serve and help other people. in his emanation body. So what is the problem? And this is where, when you're debating, is you have to be debating in this within the same system, meaning that if you're debating in an open teaching with which the Abhisamaya Alankara appears to be, this is going to be my argument. The Abhisamaya Alankara, the jewel of realization, appears to be an open teaching, a sutra teaching. So then you can only use sutric understandings in a debate. You can't bring in Diamond Way understandings because that's considered illogical in Buddhism. Again, you're like, whatever, Tim. Why is this important? Because it's important how you are towards other people and how you take care of them. Because what it means is you can only work with people at the level that they appear to you to be. You can't start debating with somebody or pushing ideas on them that they're not ready to accept. And the people that appear to you are appearing to you because why? Because of the seeds. The seeds that you have create the people that you see. And so to help the people that you see, you have to take care of them at the level that they appear at, which is your seeds anyway. So in Buddhism, it's illogical to use an argument that someone has yet to accept. You have to use terms that they already accept. And then you can show them why they're being illogical. That's okay. But the idea is that you can't use a tantric or Diamond Way understanding in a sutra context if the students aren't ready to hear it yet. And so the idea is that we need to adjust ourselves to help other people. So this isn't just an argument about whether Maitreya is a bodhisattva or a Buddha, or whether we're talking sutra or tantra. It's really about how do you adjust yourself in the presentation for the people who are around you, which I would argue is refuge. How do you help people? Is you help them where they are. And when you understand that what's appearing to you is coming from your seeds anyway, which is coming from how you treated others in the past, treating them with the utmost kindness, with that understanding, is refuge. And that's why we see this at the end of this course. And then lastly, we're going over, but relax, is that one of the beauty of these 15 courses is that they were, as far as I know, and I'm not widely traveled and I don't know a lot of things, but as far as I've experienced, I have never found a more comprehensive presentation of this path anywhere formalized in this way. It's an incredibly rare presentation that includes all the essential points of Buddhism, from the path from the beginning to the final stages. And you learn all about those things even as you move into Diamond Way. And what's beautiful about it is that Geshe Michael Roach put this together and then teased us with the full path right from the beginning. And he was teaching us all different levels at all different times. And so he ended this course with a debate on the differences, or how does one engage the difference between the open and the secret teachings, to a whole bunch of students who did not have the secret teachings yet, right? And a lot of you don't have them yet, okay? Which I'm kind of suspicious of, okay? And then the very last thing that he talks about in this course is, how do you make the secret teachings work? How do you make the whole path work? I'm not talking about open and secret. How do you make the whole thing work? What do you need? And it comes down to one thing. And I'm not even offering money for it. All right. And Dharmakirti says this in his book on logic. Okay. This is in an open teaching talking about a secret teaching. So then you have to ask the questions: what is a secret teaching? What is an open teaching? And as your seeds shift, you might have a different perception of what that means. But in order for the diamond way to work, the two things need to be present. All right. And it's an oral lineage. Okay. Remember, it's an oral lineage. It comes from one teacher to the next. All right. And then you have to find that teacher that you get the oral transmission from. Who do you want to be speaking those words to you? Rather, yeah. Rather, those things happen, by the way, in the moments of key information, by the way. Anytime something cool is about to happen, there will be an interruption, I promise. Who is it that you want to speak those words to you? And it doesn't end up being, who do you want? Who are your seeds forcing you? Right? Your seeds will force you to have the teacher that will speak them to you in the way that you can hear it and understand it and learn from them. Right? It's not any other way anyhow. Okay. But what are the two qualities that must be present for Diamond Way to work for you? Right? Which comes in the form of the teacher, but also then you have to reflect it back into yourself, because ultimately it goes this way from the teacher, then it comes out from you. Okay. It'll first come from the teacher, and then you'll transform it, and it comes from you. So the first thing is, the person who speaks it must be a being of exceptional spiritual power. What does that mean? You have the seeds to see them that way. You have the seeds to see them as someone who has that capacity. And then you better damn well be careful when you're a teacher yourself, that you don't get a big old ego about it. You know, and it's a challenging thing, right? It's a challenging thing. You know, the more that you practice, the more humbling things become. And the more you move into the Diamond Way, you'll recognize that you're the one who needs the help. It's just everyone else is appearing to need your help. Okay. And it's delicate worldview. So the first one is they have to have some kind of spiritual power that you perceive them to have. It's your seeds that see them have that, right? And then secondly, because who speaks Tantra? Your seeds force them to speak it. That's the whole point. You're forcing the teacher to speak it. Because someone else could be listening. I don't know what the hell you're all hearing, right? Someone could be hearing a bunch of nonsense, and someone could be hearing the path to like that, the next thing that they need to open up into a deep realization of emptiness right now. I don't know. What are you hearing? You're the one who's forcing the words to mean something for you, not the other way around. And then the second thing is that the person who practices Diamond Way must be someone who's leading a very pure life, meaning that your ethics are extraordinary, right? The way that you take care of other people, the way you understand the impact that you have on other people, it has to be extraordinary. That's the only way that it works. And the only way it works is because the karma gets forced upon you for it to work. You don't do anything in Diamond Way. In fact, you never did anything anyway. And that's how it's possible to change. That's how it's possible to change the entire world and how to change yourself. Good night. It is 1 a.m. I'm tired. Thank you all very much for coming. Thank you, Anastasia and team, who's making this amazing course possible. You are in month 2 of 15. Yes. Keep going strong. There's going to be, I know there's a whole bunch of study groups getting started very soon for ACI 2. Very soon we're going to have, we're hoping that you all get your certificates. We will be getting them out to you shortly if you haven't get them done, but please just do it slowly and consistently. You will get through this, I promise. And it's an honor to be able to teach you. It really is. So thank you all for coming. Anastasia, I didn't ask, but please, I hope that or Marina, do you have the banner for Kyoto coming up? I hope. If not, I'll just tell you guys about it and we'll post it in the chat. So starting on Thursday, we're starting there it is. Hi. We're starting our next major course with Geshe Michael, a preparation. We're going to continue with the Song of My Spiritual Life and The Devil Debates the Angel. We still have seats available here in Kyoto. If you want to show up and be annoying and come to the door and say, I don't have any money, but I want to come, just do it. And I'll find a way to make it possible and get you a scholarship. Or you can come online, join the program. It's going to be an amazing 4 or 5 days. Yoga, I love your little kitty. Thank you. I mean, this is ridiculous. So cute. So I hope to see you all next week. And I really hope that this next month goes well. I hope you all have a wonderful holiday, as we move into the Christmas season and seeing families and all of that. I hope that it's a wonderful time for everybody. And I hope you have a really good, Western New Year. And then in a couple months, we'll celebrate the Lunar New Year as well. All right. Thanks for joining, everybody. I'm sorry we ran over, but sometimes you have to get used to it. When you go to Diamond Way classes, they never end. So this is just a training. So have a wonderful, wonderful evening, day, whatever time it is for you. And please say goodbye to each other.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you, teacher.
Bye.
Terima kasih Esteem.
Bye.
Thank you, teacher.
Thank you.
Thank you, teacher. Have a good night.
Thank you, teacher.
Thank you.
Please stay. Goodbye.
Thầy Tim.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
I
so
love
much.
you.
Bye.
Somebody's got a cat.
Дякую. Дякую, вчителю.
До свидання.
Дякую.
All right.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night. Thank you.
来了，等等，祝你。